Good evening. Tonight I will narrate 3 glitch in the Matrix experiences for you. Now sit back and relax. Author name: Favorite Good Guy. Story title: As a child, I might have predicted my year of death. It happens to be 2020. I'm 34 now, and this story goes back to the year 2005, when I was looking through an old photo album, together with my now ex-girlfriend. My mother made a photo album exclusively with pictures of me from birth until approximately 2004, so it was a good occasion to show her my early years. As we came to the last blank page of the album, we found the year dates 1985 to 2020, written in child handwriting, obviously. I'd say not older than 8 or 9. Of course, I immediately recognized my writing style, and we were both spooked as hell, because my year of birth is 1985. Back then in 2005, I was obsessed with a band called The Network, and their album Money Money 2020, which gave me some extra chills, so I didn't know what to say. It was absolutely surreal. We instantly closed the photo album and never talked about it again. But of course, I never really forgot what I've seen there. I even eradicated the 2020 a few weeks or months later in the album and replaced it with an acceptable date of death. But the year 2020 was already stuck in my head. I learned to live with the thought, although it came back on New Year's Eve 2019 to 2020. When I was facing the fateful year, I was pretty confident I would make it through the year without harm, and bam, coronavirus pandemic strikes us. Unfortunately, I have a heart condition that might not be too good when catching the virus, and now I'm completely freaked out that I won't make it through this year. Anyone with ideas or similar experiences? Second story. Author name: Nikki Lynn 33. Story title: The house my dad lived in disappeared. When I was about 9 till 15, my dad lived in this house with his ex-girlfriend. My little sister and I would go visit him every weekend. It was a small 2-story cabin surrounded by trees. Second floor only had 1 bedroom, and the stairs led straight to the door. Then downstairs had a small second bedroom that, at the time, my dad's girlfriend's kid stayed in. Then a small living room with a stone fireplace and a small bathroom and kitchen. I have memories of the place, what the area around the house looked like, exactly how to get there, even the smell of the cabin and the fireplace burning. My dad and girlfriend broke up, and he moved out. A year or so later, I asked him about that cabin and his ex-girlfriend. He has no clue what I'm talking about, but my sister does. Thinking it's just my dad not wanting to talk about her, I asked my mom, because she had dropped us off and picked us up a lot of times. She has no clue what I'm talking about either. My sister and I decide to drive over there and look for ourselves, and there's no house or any sign of a house. There was nothing but trees, huge trees, ones that would take years to grow. I know for a fact we were in the right spot. Everything else around it was exactly how I remembered it. Just no house. Neither of us can figure out what happened. Third story. Author name: The Glass Bell. Story title: I met a guy for the first time. 3 times. 2009. I'm sitting in a cafe alone downtown, having a glass of wine. I'm sitting next to a guy who asked me a random question. Don't remember what it was, but somehow it led us to talking for a couple hours. During this conversation, we get on the topic of tattoos. He was writing on his arms that say, "The higher you fly, the harder you fall." Tells me a tragic story of how he grew up and what inspired him to get it. We spend the rest of the evening walking around together, and eventually part ways. A few months later, I run into him again at the same cafe. I go up to him and say hi with familiarity, and reintroduce myself. He looks totally confused, so I, kind of embarrassingly, explain that we'd met before, and I mention a couple things we talked about. He has literally no recollection of it, and I figure, yikes, maybe he was blasted and I just had no idea. But he goes on to say that yes, the things I mentioned are true, but that this is his first time visiting the city we're in. So by this point, he's kinda creeped out. I'm speechless, but he invites me to sit and talk with him. I still can't shake how weird the situation is, but again, we end up talking for a couple hours, and I leave to meet up somewhere else with some friends. This time, he asks for my number and I oblige. I never hear from him. 2 years later, I'm out to dinner with some friends in another state. Our server walks over and introduces himself. I look up and his arms are tattooed. The higher you fly, the harder you fall. I say, "Oh my god, what a small world." He has no idea who I am. I remind him of how we met. He smiles and says he's never been there, and jokes that maybe he has a twin. I about disintegrate right into the floor. I've never been able to make sense of it. That was my first thought too, that maybe he had a twin. But the fact that the information matches what she remembered from the conversation she had does align with the information he has, well, that's just odd. In that case, I think the best bet would have been to secure his number and call him. See how that works. I mean, would the number still connect? Would it be the same person picking up? I do wonder. Now, I have a special message for one of my listeners. Her cat passed away recently. Darius was his name. I know that losing pets is just tragic and horrible. I really am sorry and offer my condolences. Time will heal the emptiness you feel inside. Don't worry. This too shall pass. Also for Miss Jenilyn, be safe.